Hello, folks. It's Jason, Jen.
And Jen.
So, we are just kind of out and about right now. We had to run some errands where we dropped off a
Vacuum cleaner
to Jen's brother, and he gave us a few things that we can use around the house. And so
we're coming at you to talk about music. Yeah.
So, funny enough, as much as I like music right now, as a kid, it was something that I just kind of did in passing, as far as listening to music goes. My dad was really big into music. Listened to a lot of he listened to a lot of oldies, actually.
Listen to a lot of oldies.
Well, yeah. I think that to some degree my musical tastes have kind of evolved, at least somewhat, from his. So there's an oldies channel that as a kid I'd listened to, and it was actually starting off from, it's like an oldies rock and roll channel, so it was from the 1950s and some 1960s, and then became more 1960s, and then more 1970s, and
you're forgetting the 80s.
Well, I mean, the 80s was more of something that I listened to in passing. It would be on the radio while I actually, it wasn't, okay. So that channel didn't play the 80s.
Okay.
Not at that time, anyway.
Okay.
So I'd listen to other channels from the, at that time. I didn't really ever, being the youngest of 4 children, and
oldest of 3.
I never got the opportunity to control the dial.
Yeah, I can see
music,
how that would happen.
For music. So I pretty much just listened to whatever anyone was playing. I guess the most I had control over the radio was that my parents had bought, my brother and I...
Go through town so this can be longer.
Okay. Had bought us, some personal cassette players. Actually, before CD players. So, but...
I'm just here to look pretty.
So, they actually, they got us these portable tape decks that we had. They might have actually been Walkmans. But anyway, I didn't really have... I think that my parents got us the music, and then were like, well, they never really said what sort of music they wanted, or what music they liked, so my parents got my brother and I some not child inappropriate stuff, but the music wasn't really kids music. I don't remember who got which, but one of us got a 4 Tops tape, and the other one got a Neil Diamond tape. I do appreciate that Neil Diamond was popular in the 1980s. I don't really think so from a child who is probably like 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just doesn't really seem to. So, but you know what? I tell you what, my brother and I have loved the heck out of those tapes. And, we did.
You love the Neil Diamond one?
Oh, sure. There's some Neil Diamond that I jammed out to as a kid. I did like the 4 Tops. I was a big fan of that Can't Help Myself song.
I think I would prefer the Four Tops over Neil Diamond.
Given the choice right now, I think that I probably would agree.
Okay, whose tape was whose?
I don't remember.
You don't remember?
I think that we kind of switched it up. So we would exchange the tapes, with each other and be able to listen to it. So
that's too funny.
So yeah. Then we had, my sister was a really big fan of. So, by the way, this is for the younger of my two brothers and I. So this was when we got our tape decks and our tapes. My sister was a really big fan of Phil Collins and Genesis and Hall & Oates and stuff like that. So
Hall & Oates.
yeah. So especially Phil Collins and Genesis.
Phil Collins rocks.
Yeah,
he really does.
Yeah, you know what? My sister went to see him last year, I think.
Oh, really?
And said that he still rocks.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Turns out, the funny thing is that I didn't know this until the day after, but a guy I work with actually was at the same concert.
Oh, so, wow.
Yeah. So, anyway. So, yeah, I liked Phil Collins back in the day, and kind of listened to... I did listen to stuff that was popular on the radio, just...
like Tiffany?
Kind of casually. No. My sister had Debbie Gibson and Tiffany that she would torture my brother and I with by playing that in the car while she was driving us around somewhere. So I'm gonna go straight. Turn left at the other light.
Yeah, that's what I want you to do.
Okay. So Tiffany and Debbie Gibson.
I love Debbie Gibson. Oh my goodness. I really loved her. I mean, she was just amazing and taught me so much about love.
Okay. Good to know. Anyway, so, being a child of the 80s, that was, I listened, of course, to, the popular songs like, listened to Michael Jackson, of course, but didn't really get, I guess, in the 80s and, like, early 90s, I just wasn't really that into music.
Oh, I was. I was into music since I was 3 years old. Listening to Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. Oh my goodness.
The weird thing is that, like, I had weird off-the-wall tastes in different things. Like, I don't remember when it was, but they released a anniversary edition of Fantasia. The Walt Disney film. And we got it. It's awesome. And it came with the CD, the CDs of the soundtrack. So should give you an idea as to when that was released. But oh man, I had a personal CD player that I had actually taken with me, and I'd take that with me a lot of different places and listen to that music. And it's good stuff. Yeah, so Fantasia. So I was also quite familiar with the movie as well.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
I wasn't. I didn't really care for it that much, to be honest. I'm sorry.
I can understand that. It does, especially in the beginning.
I thought it was weird.
That's because it is. Especially in the beginning when it starts off very abstract.
Yeah.
And then eventually, you got colors and shapes and just stuff like that. And then eventually it sort of builds towards, blues, and then the beginning of life, that sort of thing, and then you have the dinosaurs battling it out and stuff like that, and at different times it just gets really, really weird. Anywho, so there's that. But actually, the first, again, going back to the fact that my musical tastes, I listened to music that was kind of around me. My brother actually had a tape of Metallica's Black Album, so this would have been in the early 90s, and I remember listening to that quite a bit, and I got my first CD player. Again, this was before Fantasia, so when I got that, first album I got was actually Metallica's Black Album, and it was actually a bit of a I wasn't really into heavy metal at the time, so it wasn't like the really heavier tracks I didn't really
appreciate.
Exactly. So I liked the songs that most people liked. The heaviest song that I liked on it was probably like Enter Sandman or Sabbath True. But the two songs that I got that album for, and I used to listen to that album over and over, well, these two songs over and over and over again, were track 4, which was The Unforgiven, and track 8, which was Nothing Else Matters.
Yeah.
And
really nice.
Yeah. So those were, I kind of gradually appreciated some of the other songs on there a little bit more, but again, not really getting into it too much.
Metallica scared me when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
Because I was brought up in such a heavily Christian family, and I wasn't allowed to listen to that kind of music, so I always thought it was like devil music.
And, I think that was sort of implied with me. I was a little bit closeted on whether or not I liked Metallica back in the day, so I didn't really, but, again, I didn't really like the really heavy stuff from them, and at one point I even got the album right before the Black Album, which is the album And Justice for All, and I didn't really like it.
Do you like it now?
Yeah. I like it now that I've learned to appreciate heavy metal, as an art form, as opposed to, just the softer tracks on the Black Album. It wasn't actually until after a while, I was listening to the radio when I was in high school, and the album Load came out. It was the first album that they released in a few years, and there were a few songs on there that I kind of liked. Yeah.
It's getting kind of cold in here.
And so I kind of started to appreciate the heavier stuff a little bit more, and I revisited And Justice for All. I started to like it a bit more, so kind of worked my way towards the heavier stuff, and then at some point someone's like, "Oh man, you like Metallica? You should check out some of their earlier stuff, like Master of Puppets or Ride the Lightning." So I checked out Master of Puppets, and yeah, that's the Master of Puppets is kind of divided into sort of 3-ish parts. The first part, it starts off really heavy and, it hits you, and then in the middle it kind of cuts into this sort of interlude, and then, has a really killer solo and stuff like that, and then it eventually works its way back into the third heavy part again. And so, but that middle part was like awesome. That's what I would listen to, that song specifically for that, and grew to appreciate the rest of the song sort of around it. And then at that point I started listening to a lot more heavy metal. Again, I worked my way backwards from that point and worked over to
I'm more of a hair metal type of gal.
Yeah. So I worked my way back to their debut album. Also, I worked my way back, got Ride the Lightning and Kill 'Em All, and really got into them a lot in high school. And still listened to a few things that were on the radio, so I was somewhat familiar with those. So I still do have those songs in my repertoire, so I know 90s radio type music, rock and alternative rock.
Yeah.
A bit of grunge, and for that matter, sort of filled in some of the gaps since then. And I think that I have a pretty wide variety of music that I listen to, and again, going back to
someday we're gonna have to hear about the music I like.
Yeah. Well,
I'm just messing with you.
well, we'll do that on one of your vlog entries.
Yeah.
So
I don't think that I could talk for 17 minutes and 30 seconds about the music I like, though. It's pretty straightforward. and you're more detail oriented when it comes to the...
I'm also a bit of a geek, so
yeah.
When I was in high school, I actually developed a game, sort of a quiz on my TI-82 graphic calculator, in which it would randomly choose an album and a track number, and play. It would show you the first 2 words to the album and track number, or to the lyrics to an album.
This is the first time I'm hearing this.
Yes, it is. For all of the Metallica songs from...
When you think you know a person...
The first 5 albums, was it 5?
Yeah, seriously.
From let's see here. From Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning, and Master of Puppets, and Justice for All, and the Black Album. Yeah, the first 5 albums, it would randomly pick an album and then a song, and then you would have to guess which album by number, which song.
For some reason, I am not surprised that you did this.
Nor should you be.
I am not surprised at all.
Nor should you be. Yeah, so that was who I was in high school. The nerdy kid over there, listening to Metallica and writing out a program on my calculator to quiz me on. And basically the first 2 words for each of the songs on the first 5 albums are unique to the song. So
I think we should probably end this, because this is already a 20-minute video. So
You're talking about being a nerd and talking about Metallica.
That's not it. I just think it's going to be a really long video if we go all the way home.
I love you, honey.
I love you too.
So, so I did listen to a few other bands at that point. I did also get into Black Sabbath and Ozzy Osbourne. So, more Ozzy at that point, and then I kind of worked my way towards Black Sabbath. Fun fact, when I first heard that sort of evil riff from the song Black Sabbath, scary thing is that it sounded incredibly familiar. Yeah. So, yeah. So
that's weird.
Yeah, it is. It is. If you know the song, you know what I'm talking about.
I don't know what you're talking about. What evil song?
The song Black Sabbath.
Oh, I thought you said it was an evil song.
Well, it's an evil riff.
An evil riff, okay.
So,
okay, I got you.
Yeah, okay, I'll turn off the film. Turn off the camera because, yeah, we are almost home. So, yeah. So, if you did enjoy this video, thank you. Please feel free to like, share, comment, subscribe, and click on the bell notification.
Yes, please do.
To make sure that you get all of my updates. And I will talk to you later.